So, my name's Stephen Thomas. Thank you for coming along this morning. What I really hope to do in exchange for your time is give you a load of really valuable insights, hints, tips, information as to how you can get the most out of business networking and how you can get the most out of events like this as well. We've got about 40 minutes to go. I'll be speaking. There's plenty of time for questions as well, and we're not rushing off at the end. So if you want to find me and grab me, then I'll have time to answer your questions afterwards. My name's Stefan. I'm the author of Business Networking for Dummies, as well as a few other books as well. Business Networking for Dummies is 10 years old next month. I'm really quite proud of that. I was asked to write Business Networking for Dummies at a networking event. I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little bit later on. But I talk to people about networking. This is what I do. I go out and speak at various events all over the UK and in Europe. I speak for BT, Lloyds Bank, Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, Herefordshire Means Business, and loads of other places as well. So this is actually my job now, going around and talking about networking. I have also had stuff written about me in various newspapers and that sort of thing because networking has become a thing for me over the years. Networking has become a thing where I help people to understand typically how to make more sales out of networking. I also do quite a lot of work in the public sector, helping people to understand how to use networking to enhance their career as well, how to use networking to build up a network of people. But that's me. I've got some pretty diverse clients. I do a ton of work for Oxford Brookes University. I do some work for BT, and I do work for Doctor and the Medics as well, which will age anyone in the room who remembers. Clive, better known as the Doctor, actually lives in Mid Wales himself. But that's what I do. Every single one of those clients I have won at a networking event somewhere or on social media. And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today. I don't just talk about it, I actually make this work. What intrigues me, and I've had a number of conversations this week, is that what people sometimes don't get is that when you give up your time to come to an event like this, when you buy membership of a networking organisation, what you're buying is a load of opportunity. And a load of opportunities. You're not necessarily buying skills immediately, you're not buying customers, but you're buying the opportunity to create them. And it's a lot to do with what you do with the opportunity along the way. So this is what I do. Outside of doing, this is me in real life. I'm Stefan, I'm married to Sharon. We have 5 children between us, Joe and Fran and George and Miles and Patch. And our sort of adopted stepson at the moment, Elijah, Fran's boyfriend. I said at the moment, I didn't mean at the moment. he lives with us as well. 3 of them are mine as such, Joe and George and Patch are my sons. And outside of talking about networking, I go to far too many punk and rock concerts for someone my age. Something over 5. Remember I'll point down the front as well. Something over 500 punk and rock concerts since I started doing it. The photo is of me at Dropkick Murphys just before lockdown, February 2020. Anyone else in the room ever heard of Dropkick Murphys? We've got 1, 2. Okay. There's always a couple. It's a bit of a test. There's always a couple in the room. But that's what I do outside of this. I am a frustrated rock star. The musical talent skipped my generation. My dad is musical, at least one of my sons is very musical. It skipped me. So standing up and speaking about networking is pretty much the closest I get. For those talented roles 1 and 2, I am going to do a stage dive a bit later, so want to brace yourselves. Enough with the jokes. This is where it all started for me. How many of you go to some sort of networking events as part of what you do or as part of your business? Okay. When I first got into networking around 2007, I started hearing this phrase, the know, like, trust, or the meet, like, know, trust. depending on which flavour of networking you go to. Are you all broadly familiar with that? That process after you've met someone, Sharon, it looks like there's people trying to get me to challenge you, by the way. That process after you've met someone where they start to make the decision whether they like you, their decision, by the way, and whether they trust you enough to do business with you or refer business to you. So in most networking circles, it's referred to as know, like, trust. I first heard it as meet, like, know, trust. But my first job, that was me, 1985, there or thereabouts. My first job, 1983, I worked in Manfield Shoes in Oxford. I've driven up from Oxford, that's where I still live. And we learned about building rapport with customers. Same process, we talk about the know, like, and trust. When I worked in Manfield Shoes, we knew that we had about 20 minutes after someone came into the shop to build enough rapport with them so that they trusted us enough to buy some Scotch Guard from us. That's why we have assistants in shoe shops. If someone comes into a shoe shop, it's pretty certain that they're likely to be interested in buying shoes, but the upsell of the Scotch Guards or places or whatever it happens to be, that's what we were taught to build the rapport for. What I realise, 1983, so whatever we are, 40 much years later, the process is the same. Getting to know people and giving people the information so that they can decide whether they trust you. It's never about persuading, it's about giving people the information so that they can decide. That's what networking is about. The really good news is that networking is about much more than the event itself. So many people try and achieve so much at the networking event, and actually you haven't just got 20 minutes in the basement Jake's department of Manfield Shoes. You've got a whole lifetime to build that rapport, to build that trust with people. The networking event is only the start of the conversation. You've got loads of time to build on the conversation afterwards. Every good opportunity starts with a little conversation. Whether you start those conversations at networking events, just like this, whether you start those conversations online, every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. Whether it's being asked to write the book, meeting Rich Beale at some point and being asked to speak here, those opportunities have all started with a conversation somewhere. And we don't have to try and squeeze business in at the very beginning of the conversation. Something else that I do very differently, and when I teach people, I teach them very differently how to do it. You don't have to try and squeeze networking in or business in on your first networking conversation. I met, as such, virtually, I met on Twitter a guy called Wes Linden. It says that in November 2014, we got involved in a joint conversation on Twitter where we were talking about postcards. In 2014, I was telling someone on Twitter that I send my grandmother a postcard pretty much every week. My grandmother doesn't do social media, so I use an app on my phone that I upload a photo, write a message to my grandmother. 2 days later, she gets a postcard through her front door. I tell her where I am, what I'm doing, and so on. I have to say, 10 years later, I'm very, very pleased that I'm still sending postcards to my grandmother now. The amazing Tetty. I got into conversation with Wes about sending postcards. We didn't talk about business. We talked. Can you see what I'm now breathing in now? I can see the photographers. Standing to the side of you. We got talking about postcards, about our families and so on. I got to know Wes pretty well. Wes is National Network Leader for an organisation called Utility Warehouse. I met him for coffee a few months later. We didn't talk business. We just got on, chatted, got to know each other, and I ended up writing a book with Wes, and Wes gave me my biggest ever speaking opportunity. That's 2,500 people at the small looking theatre where I spoke at his kick-off event a few years ago. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. And I know it's a soundbite, but I've thought about that phrase quite a lot. My conversation with Wes at first was actually little. We were talking about postcards. But that went on to some of the biggest opportunities that I had, particularly in my speaking. Wes has introduced me to directors and organisations across Europe I've spoken for as well. We just started the conversation. That's what you can do here today. Start conversations with people. Go and chat to the people who've got stands here. If you've got a stand here, make sure you're talking to the people who are coming to the stands. There's so much opportunity in this room, and it's about starting those conversations with people. How many of you have been to some sort of networking event where you have to deliver a 60-second or 40-second introduction? Right. Very first networking event I ever went to, nobody told me about the 60-second true story. This, standing up here and speaking in front of people, this is something that I've learned to do. It is definitely not something that I do naturally. When I went to my very first ever event, I live in a small town called Whitby in Oxfordshire. Our MP used to be David Cameron, so all of our libraries used to be open, our things used to get connected. Depends where I do that joke, how it works. When Cameron was MP, we've got Jeremy Clarkson just up the road as well, but these things got connected. I was invited to this thing called Whitney Big Breakfast, and no one told me about the 60-second introduction. And I remember my terror when I first started to realise that I was going to have to do this in front of a load of people. It wasn't the best environment for me to do it in. Either everyone else at Whitney Big Breakfast knew each other really well. I was the new boy. So as it started, and the person sat opposite me who did her 60 seconds first was called Sharon. Sharon stood up and did her 60-second introduction, and Sharon suddenly became this enormously brilliant presenter. I've known her as a travel agent for years. She was just brilliant at what she did. She presented it well. Everyone else in the room knew her. Sharon sat down, the person next to her stood up, and I started to panic. Because I was suddenly realising that I was about to stand up in front of this group of people that I really didn't know, but also, was not knowing them, in my head, I've created that they were all much more experienced in business than me. They all had much better businesses than me. They all probably had bigger houses than me, more money than me. I created all of that inside me, so I was feeling pretty intimidated by it. I sat next to a guy called Jamie McIntyre. Jamie stole my bulbs and batteries. So when I sat next to him, I started to think, I can see why this guy could be really useful to me. Because what he actually does is goes round to every restaurant, every office, every shop in Whitney. He looks to see if they've got a bulb out, offers to replace it for free, gets into conversation with them. Jamie was that guy. And you've got that guy in Hereford. He knew everyone. If you wanted an introduction to anyone in town, Jamie would say, oh, I supply them, or I've tried to supply them, or... And I started to think, oh, this is cool. I can see how I'm getting to know this guy. My very first business was a little local magazine. I can see if I get to know him, this could be really useful for me. I wonder why no one else has sat next to Jamie. A few minutes later, I get to find out. You've all met that guy at the networking event. Because as the introductions go around the room, everyone gets a bit more confident, everyone's getting into their flow a bit, the in-jokes are starting, and then someone sits down and Jamie stands up. And this was 2005, but I remember it so vividly, because Jamie McIntyre stands up and says, I'm Jamie McIntyre from Hamilton's Light Bulbs and Batteries. I will beat any price you're paying for your light bulbs and batteries. Tell them what you're paying. No, lie to me about what you're paying for your light bulbs, and I will beat that price. Sorry. 2 minutes, Jamie kept that up for. I did that same routine on stage at that event, and they had dry ice. Very badly thought through. I started coffee straight after doing it. That was my very first experience. And that's what I thought you had to do at the networking event, to get people to notice you, to be that genuine character. And I was scared of it. When I've talked about every big opportunity starts with a little conversation, actually your 60 seconds intro at a networking event only needs to be the start of the conversation. Give people enough so that they want to find out more about you. The danger, the trap that so many people fall into is to think that I've got 60 seconds, I've got to cram everything into it. Let's get this, let's tell people how long we've been established, let's tell people our prices, let's get our spring special offering. Just give people enough that the right people want to find out more. Think about what the people in the room are buying, which is subtly different to what you're selling. Broadly speaking, I sell training courses, I sell membership of networking organisation. That's not what people turn up to an event to buy. What I talk about is how I can help people sell more. Because that's what piques their interest. That's when they start to ask me how I work, what they can find out about the services which I offer. Talk to people in their language. Think about what they're buying. Think about using your 60 seconds to start the conversation rather than getting the whole of the conversation in there. Very happy to chat on you a bit more around their 60 seconds on the way. When I train people to deliver their networking introduction, we just add 6 parts of a structure. There are loads of structures that we can use. This is just one. But I talk to people about delivering their networking introduction without having to shout. To be good at this, on my LinkedIn, by the way, this presentation is on my LinkedIn along with a load of slides about this. It's there for free. So if we're not connected on LinkedIn, go and find me. It's on my pinned posts at the top of the way. When I talk to people about delivering their networking introduction, we go through 6 different stages, 2 of which are exactly the same, as you might have spotted. When you stand up, if it's possible for you to stand up, do stand up at networking events. Think about smiling and breathing. 60 seconds is quite a long time to talk for, if you're nervous as well. Introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Stephen Thomas. I'm the author of Business Networking for Dummies. Tell them what you do. I help people win more business from their networking activity. Really simply, my clients sell more stuff at events just like this. Hopefully it's something to make somebody paying attention to what I'm saying. Then I start to tell people how I do it. I organise really dynamic training courses that anyone can access because since 2020 we've delivered them on Zoom. You can access them from anywhere in the world. In fact, I recently worked with Tim Leland, a video editor based in London, Australia. Tim was getting no inquiries at the networking events he went to. He now receives an average of 4 inquiries at each one he goes to. If you want to find out more, I'm hanging around. Just ask me for a conversation afterwards. That's me, Stephen Thomas. So I flow through these 6 bits. You'll find all of this on LinkedIn, or if you message me, I can send you the slides as well. I'll be very, very happy to. I give people just enough that they want to find out more, rather than giving people so much information that they forgot to know what he doesn't need to talk through them. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. The networking event is the start of the conversation. It doesn't have to be the whole of the conversation. I've left time at the end of this for any questions, by the way. If you have any, please feel free to shout them out at the end. Something that people just get wrong about networking is that they forget that everyone else is as busy as them. A number of things happen today. I'm not a mind reader. I do know a few things that will happen today. Someone will have a really great conversation with one of the stands out here. They'll think, oh, that service is brilliant. I could really use that service in my business. I'm going to go away and think about it. I'll get back in touch with them. And then as that person walks across the car park, they've suddenly got a couple of missed calls from their kids, or they realise they're a bit late for their next appointment, or they've got an email they weren't expecting to get from a client. that great conversation they just had with someone whose service could really be good for their business starts to sit down their list of priorities. This is really interesting to me. We all know we're busy. We've got lives, we've got kids, we've got pets, we've got businesses, whatever it happens to be, and yet we expect people to remember us. People think that if they go to an networking event and they shout loud enough and they have a good enough stand at an exhibition like this, that people will remember them when it comes to it. It's our job to remind people that we exist. It's not their job to remember us. I talk quite a lot about after networking events, following up actively and following up passively. I'll explain. When I wrote Business Networking for Dummies, I asked for this photo. The amazing John Jacob, photographer from Bradford. I said, could you send me a photo of a desk with my business cards, and it's a bit messy. I need it for the book. He sent me this photo back 20 minutes later, because that was his actual desk. He goes to a lot of networking events. That was their real business cards. It's not mocked up. We still charged me for it. That was he's a really good guy. That was John Jacob's actual desk. And the point that I was making with the illustration is that people do this at networking events. They get a ton of business cards or LinkedIn connections in 2024 and don't think about doing anything with them afterwards. Actively following up with people. If someone has expressed an interest in what you're selling, you absolutely owe it to yourself, your shareholders, your boss, your mortgage provider to actively follow up with those people. But get in touch with them afterwards and say, it was great to meet you. You said you're sort of interested in what I'm doing. Is it worth us having a 15-minute chat? Even better than that, if you're a standholder here today, an exhibitor here today, most of us carry around our diaries now with us. If someone expresses a bit of interest in what you're doing, get a 15-minute, half-an-hour chat booked with them straight away. It's really, really worth doing, because there's a great expression from a book called The Profitable Coach. The expression that I talk about is a half-life of enthusiasm. When you meet someone, when they hear about your service for the first time, when they think, oh, that could work for me, their enthusiasm is right up here. 24 hours later, life has got in the way, and they sort of remember talking to you, and a week later, in the nicest possible way, they've forgotten what they ever did in the first place. If someone expresses a bit of interest in what you do, then do follow up with them straight away afterwards. Try and get that second conversation with them. Remember that networking events and social media are only a gateway to an actual conversation. They're not the conversation in and of itself. When you came here this morning, or when you go to a networking event, whose business did you come here for the sake of? Yeah, your own, yeah. Something I really love about that question, when I ask it, there's a delay of about a second. And people are thinking, he's being clever, he's going to talk about referrals or something like that. He's going to say, of course, you look after everyone else. But actually, the truth is, you turn up to a networking event for the sake of your business. That's what people do. So most of the people we meet at networking events aren't actually interested in buying from us straight away. No one turned up here this morning to buy from us. So most of the people that we meet shouldn't be followed up if they are prospective customers. People very often ask me, how do I follow up after a networking event? And it's almost the wrong question. Because if I had a sales meeting, if I had a new service and I packaged my Chris Saunders, if I phoned Chris about it and said, I'd like a conversation about this new service that I'm offering, that would be a sales conversation. He would be expecting that to be a sales conversation. When someone goes to a networking event, they're not turning up to be your prospect, your prospective customer. So unless they've expressed interest, why would you be following up with them? People do it all the time. You get the emails yourself. You get an email to say, hey, it was great to meet you this morning, and now I'm going to tell you in 750 words everything about what we do in our business. You've never asked for that. You're not putting out an interest in it. You're probably not going to read the email. So why are some of you still sending them? So it's what we think we ought to do. Passively following up with people is what I frankly made a career out of. I keep in touch with people rather than following up. I use the tools that we've got in 2024, connecting with people on LinkedIn, connecting with people on Instagram or wherever else they happen to be. We've got plenty of time to build the relationship after we first met, if we just go to the trouble of keeping in touch with people. This is where it gets interesting to me. Most people are interested in themselves. So instead of constantly getting in touch with people, pushing offers in front of them, sending them my newsletter to tell them what I'm up to, I go onto other people's turf. I go to where they are, rather than expecting them to come to me. I don't know why the image isn't working, but the image isn't working, so you get the really good screen grab is of the LinkedIn post. And this morning, before I kept connected to the Wi-Fi on here, it was working. Hey. Every LinkedIn post, and every Instagram post, and every TikTok is a mini networking event that you're invited to. I met the head of professional practices from Lloyds Bank at an event just like this. Him and I got chatting, we connected on LinkedIn, and then I went on to his turf. I commented on his posts, I liked his posts. If it was relevant, I would share his posts to other people. When he came and organising his sales conference, he said, well, I couldn't ignore you, could I? Because every time I went on LinkedIn, you were there, you were up in my notifications. You've all heard this word, the algorithm, and you're all scared, apart from the people there from Google, you're all scared of the algorithm. Sorry, spotted to like straight away. Everyone's scared of the algorithm. We all try and think, when should we post on LinkedIn, or when should we post, when should we put our blog post out, what time of day, what time of week, to make sure that it gets the most visibility. Just think about this for a second. You post something on LinkedIn, you are at the absolute behest of LinkedIn algorithm to decide who it's going to show it to, how many people, how many of your followers it's going to show it to. If I comment on your posts, you are going to notice that. You're going to notice that Stephen Thomas has commented, unless you're getting hundreds of comments on each post, which most of us aren't. One of the things that I do a lot is I go and look at subjects that I've been commenting for people that I don't know and get involved in those conversations as well on various social media platforms. Used to do it on Twitter all the time. Anyone talking about going to their first networking event, I would jump in there and say, hey, good luck. Hope it goes really well for you. I sell books on networking. Why would I not be talking to people who are going to their first networking event? I don't jump in there and say, hey, you should buy my book. But I go and add value to people's conversations on LinkedIn. I look for conversations that are about networking and jump in there. And before you ask the question, if people say, isn't it weird that you go and, like strangers, people you've never met before, you go and comment on their posts? When someone comments on any of your posts on LinkedIn or any of your TikToks or any of your Instagram reels, you are delighted, aren't you, that someone has paid attention to it? And if someone new comes at, you're really delighted if someone new comes and comments on one of your posts. That's how we all work. That's what we look for. Instead of just spraying stuff out there and expecting people to see me, I put the effort, like, this is how I train people to do it, to go onto their turf. Go and be interested in other people. We seem to have lost the screen grabbing from it, but the best book that was ever written about social media was written in 1938 by a guy called Dale Carnegie. The book is called How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you haven't read that book, I would strongly suggest you buy it. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Other books are available on Amazon. What Dale Carnegie says is you can win more friends in 2 months by being genuinely interested in them than you will in 2 years by trying to be interested to them. And yet what most of us do is trying to be interested to other people. We try and put content out there that will interest them. How about going and commenting on the article that they just spent 2 hours writing your thing? How about going and sharing that if we think it's relevant for our people? This isn't a one-to-one relationship. Just because I like one of your posts doesn't mean you're going to automatically come back and like all of my stuff. I promise you this, if you put enough effort into building relationships with other people, in being genuinely interested in them, then some of them come back and start paying attention to you. Something that you have to think about if you're going to start being interested in other people is that they aren't going to come back and pay attention to you. So what are you giving people to look at? I've already said to you this morning that out on my LinkedIn is a video and other stuff giving people the information that they need to build their own 60 seconds. I've got a ton of content out there about how to get better at networking, which people can just find on our social media. I like doing that, I like giving value to people, but something that happens along the way is that if people are looking for a speaker for their event, or if people are looking for someone to deliver some networking training, they can see my content, they can make their own decision whether they trust me or not to be a speaker for their event, or to engage in training with me, or whatever it happens to be. I put some video in this. I put tons of video out there of me speaking. So if someone's looking for a speaker for their conference, they can see what I'm like. People engage with me to book me for conferences or whatever. And I did some work for the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. I asked them why they had booked me, because I only met them when I turned up on the day to speak. I had conversations with them, they paid my invoice. I was only meeting them when I actually turned up. And I asked them why they booked me. Not like, why did you book me? But market information, they said, we felt like we already knew you. Because when they checked me out, which people are doing, then there was enough of me out there that they felt like they already knew me. Sorry that we're missing the screen, but I'm not idea why that's happened. I put information in there so that people can make that decision. They can decide whether they trust me enough to work with me. Something that I learned along the way is to never judge or underestimate the other people in the room. This has come up quite a lot. A very, very long time ago, back in about 2009, 2007, I met someone called Cathy Osborne. Cathy Osborne was a self-employed HR consultant working on Aberdeen in South Wales. I met Cathy at a networking event and got to know Cathy pretty well. She gave up on being self-employed, it wasn't for her, and went back to her first love and became an HR director for a fashion retail company. She had been previously HR director for Next, she was an operations director for Hamleys. She, series of life changes, decided to go self-employed, but ultimately went back to being an HR director for a fashion retail. About 6 months after she went back into doing that, Cathy got in touch with me and said, look, I know this is out of your comfort zone, but you used to work at a shoe shop, you know the language, we'd like to talk to you about speaking for our conference. How much would you charge? I got quite excited. It was the biggest conference I ever spoken for at the time, 400 shoe shop managers. I was then employed to do a ton of training around the shoe shops in the UK. And I got excited all over the place. I was working for, at the time, this big fashion retailer. And a guy called Peter got in touch with me and said, can you introduce me to Cathy? Because I provide services to retailers, I go into their estates and I would put these machines in. I didn't need to introduce Peter to Cathy. Peter had been at the same networking event as me, in Aberdeen. Peter had been introduced to Cathy at that networking event, and Cathy was a sole trader, HR consultant, and Peter had said, I actually only deal with bigger businesses, sorry, don't need to speak to you today. Never judge the other people in the room. You never know who they might have been. The general manager of the Guild of Professional Estate Agents with 700 independent estate agency offices around the UK. That was me, 2000 to 2003. I used to race them, I really did. Was an estate agent for 20 years, that's what I used to do. You never know who people are connected to right now. You never know who people might go on to become in the future. So many people who couldn't be bothered with coming back in the day as soon as I wrote the book, I wanted to get to know me. That's been quite amusing. But more importantly, just be more human. Getting to know people's lives, having actual conversations and building relationships with people, you never know where it's going to lead, and it might lead nowhere. Just have the conversations along the way, because some of them do turn into really big opportunities. I ended up doing all of that work for Barrett's Shoes. Peter didn't. But I talked to Kathy when she didn't have the money to spend on seriously, when she was sole trader HR consultant. The bit that so many small businesses, particularly in England and Wales, do is that we forget to show people the till. When I worked in a shoe shop, the last thing that we did with people was deliver them to the till. Someone would take that money from them. If you go into, I think it's B&M in Oxford, you can't leave without going through the tills. You can't leave IKEA without going through the tills. And yet what we often do in small business is that we do all of the stuff, go into networking events, putting content out there, and we get a bit squeamish when it comes to actually talking to people about buying from us. Building all of these relationships has a really, really positive impact. Because one of the things that it means is that if I pick up the phone and say, hey, Steve, I've been talking to you for a few months, you've told me that you've got this challenge in your business, I've got this service that I think would work for you, would you be interested in talking about it? People take the call. I do put those calls out to people. I do send people messages and say, I'm sending this, would you like to buy it? I use a different set of words, but that's pretty much what I'm doing. I make sure that if they say, no, not for me, that the relationship continues. I don't ever get frustrated. Sharon's my wife back. I don't ever get frustrated and say, oh, no, idiot, whatever. I don't ever do that, I promise. But I never. I'm human, just like everyone else. But as long as you're doing it honestly, as long as the relationship genuinely continues, as long as you genuinely believe that what you're offering will have value to them, I have no hesitation in sending those messages. Don't forget to show people the till at the end of the conversation. This photo is a photo of boots, and it's up on the ceiling. It says pay here. Go into any fashion retailer, go into Primark, up on the ceiling it says pay here. And yet we forget to do that in small business particularly. Are you all familiar with DFS, the furniture store? When does their sale end? I've asked that question quite a few times, and I know I'm on solid ground here. You're all familiar with DFS. You all know they've got a sale on, you know they sell sofas, you know they do interest-free credit. You all know that online. So when you put the TV on tonight, if you watch commercial television, bear in mind that you all know all of that. Why not for DFS wasting their time and money putting adverts on the most expensive pieces of real estate and telly to tell you stuff that you already know about them? To make sure you would, because this isn't about going out once. Someone might have absolutely loved your service when they met you at a networking event 6 months ago, but life has got in the way. And now all of a sudden they need your service, they think, oh God, who was that person? I can't find them on LinkedIn. But, oh, it's all right, he was something similar, I'll talk to him instead. DFS know that they need to be there at that moment when you start to feel about buying a sofa. Because being there the rest of the time is just white noise. You need to be there when someone decides to swap out allocator, or decides that they suddenly need to take search engine optimization a bit more seriously than they have. You need to be there then. We're in competition with people that we just don't know that we're in competition with, particularly in B2B service businesses, which is broadly what I do. Someone might decide to spend money on training with me, someone might decide to buy email marketing instead. Someone might decide to spend their budget on a service that's completely different to what I do. We're in competition with people who don't do the same as us, particularly if we're offering services to SMEs and small businesses. They may have a budget, they might decide to spend it on coaching or training, it might go on graphic design. Be there at the moment that someone decides they might need your service. We can all do it. We've got so many tools available to us now, pretty much for free. LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, X, if anyone's still on there, Threads, wherever anyone happens to be, we've got all of these tools for keeping in touch with people. And it makes all of this possible. If you can take one thing from today, think about what does this make possible. Coming to this seminar, meeting the people that you'll meet out there later on today, what does this make possible for your business? Because the real opportunity with all of this, I have no idea what happens to those green roasts. They're all there, this morning. The real opportunity is that those people are involved. Something that I absolutely know about doing green presentations like this, and it's absolutely not a criticism, is that so many people go away from this and think to anything differently. If you've invested your time in being here today, if you've come to talk to the exhibitors, to network with the people, the real opportunity is that you don't have to do much more than your competition. You just have to do a tiny bit more than them. And so many people won't. There's a really, really good QR code on this. I would draw it if I possibly could. On September the 18th, I am running a national event. It's in Oxfordshire. I've got people booked in from all over the UK. I've got the world's most amazing business speakers coming along. I've already got a ton of people booked in from Scotland, Wales, all four corners of England, all coming to Oxfordshire to network. I will be facilitating the networking all day. We've got some amazing speakers, starting with me leading the day all the way through. I'll be introducing the other speakers. Clive Jackson, meeting of Dr. and the Medics, talking about how he's kept going with a small business for 40 years. Small business happens to be him standing on stage and singing. It's still a small business like the rest of ours. He's had peaks and drops in his career. Clive will be opening the event. I've got experts in sales, experts in finance, experts in paid advertising, and it's only £149 to be there. And if you use the coupon code HMBIZ, you'll get £50 off that as well for the next few days. Sharon told us of you.
I've got a copy here.
You've got a copy of the QR code. If any of you are interested in coming, connect with me and I'll send it to you. Or Sharon at the back has got the code there and it's working on her phone and not on my laptop. But that's cool. It really is a national event. If your business is national and you'd like to meet business owners from all over the UK, do have a chat to us about it. I have got a couple of minutes for any questions. Can I finish with this though? I'll be hanging on questions as well. I was an estate agent for 20 years. I've broadly been involved in sales since 1983. That's what I've always done. And I was always told you just get one chance to make an impression. I've spoken at events like this between 400 and 500 times in the last 10 years or so. I've been to about 1,500 networking events since I started in 2005. There's something that I fell in love with about networking, which is different to any other environment that I've been in. Same applies to social media as well. Where I was always told you just get one chance to make an impression, networking was that place where I got a second chance, or even in 2024, 1,500 chance to make an impression. Thank you all very much for listening. Thank you.